Tall is my ancestral name. Dennis Joseph is my given name. And I'm a elder statesman lacrosse player from Squamish Nation.
Do you remember who introduced you to the game, the first person?
It was a very kind question from my dad. He played lacrosse. His dad played lacrosse. My mother's father managed, coached, and played box and field lacrosse. So I come from a long line of lacrosse players.
Yes.
But my dad asked me if I wanted to play. I was like 6. And of course, I was hopeless. I'm his son. I said, yes, yeah, I'll play. My older brothers, I have 6 older brothers and sisters, and the brothers all played. Yeah. This is, on the top is the famed picture taking outside the old Forum in Toronto, where the North Shore Indians had won the Nationals in
Toronto.
In 1936. So in the picture are 2 of my grandfathers, Andy Paull, who was manager coach, and Stan Joseph is also in there. He's right here.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my dad's dad.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's guys from 6 nations, including the Bomberries, Martins. They're now in the BC Sports Hall of Fame as well, along with Simon Baker. He asked me to help. Took about a year to get pictures, names. Actually, the consultant was Ross Powless. He was still alive back there.
Yeah, I met Ross before.
We wanted to make sure that everybody was included
Wow.
in the Sports Hall of Fame. And these pictures of these fine men, young men down below, is taken at Mahon Park. There used to be a lacrosse blocks there. There's a stadium there called Fen Burdette. It was in behind there where this lacrosse box was. Yeah.
With the Squamish Nation, was lacrosse go back as far as, say, the Haudenosaunees to their creation stories? Is it that sort of relationship, or what did it come out later to be part of the Squamish culture? Do you know? Yeah.
The modern era did evolve there, but there is a variation I learned from my great-grandmother. I got to see her until I was 14 and a half. Her name was Lizzie, and I talked to her about the lacrosse game. And she shared that here, for Squamish Coast Salish, it was more for recreation, and village would play against village. They would set up 2 posts buried in the ground, and the ball was actually a granite rock. Mm-hmm. And the objective was to get of course, the rock between the posts. Yeah. You could run it through, throw it through, but that's the origin of lacrosse here. And sticks were sometimes involved too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
So it was played without a stick quite often.
With the stick, you had a choice, I guess.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
Yeah.
But probably different than the long sticks from back with the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat, and a little different than that though. But, but a game, was it always referred to as the creator's game?
No, here it was more for recreation. She shared.
Okay.
But when I dug deep enough into, like, even that rock.
Yes.
When she told me that, and I went and found one on the beach, it transformed my life.
Huh.
My body changed, my spirit changed. There's always fear in the game, but I found the strength and just you holding that rock, that granite rock. And I still teach this to players today, elite players.
Yes.
And I pass it around, invite them all to hold it.
What's the size of that rock?
It's about, grapefruit.
Like, okay, so bigger than a field lacrosse ball, but the size of a grapefruit almost.
Yeah, maybe a bit smaller.
And belief from Haudenosaunee or Anishinaabe is everything has a renda, is the term. Power, the rocks, the mountains, everything has a power to it. Would that be a similar situation?
Very similar. Yeah. And for me, when I was at that age, physically, my muscles got stronger. My fear was lessened. I always tell my players as a coach.
So how old were you then?
14.
14. 13. And so that's a key time in everybody's life.
Key time. I'd lost my dad at 12, but I would go and visit her like all of us kids would go and visit her in her room. And my mother always said to keep her company, but really it was to be taught.
Taught, yeah.
To be taught from the history of Squamish, the language of Squamish, like the story I just shared with you about the rock.
Yeah.
She didn't speak much English, barely. I'm only the third generation to be speaking this language. So it's not that long ago, you know, in
Not too
terms of
long
history.
ago.
It's
Yeah.
not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the spirit side I created myself.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, to take my tools to the game, as it were.
When did you become a goalie?
I started playing ball hockey first.
Okay.
Then after my dad coached me, my uncle, Albert, started coaching me. And his sons I used to play ball hockey with.
Okay. Yeah.
And they told their dad, who was the coach, said, you know, Dennis is a great goalie, you should put him in that.
Okay.
So I was a little reluctant at first until I saw my Hall of Famer uncle, Stan Joseph Sr., come out of retirement in his mid-40s in North Shore, and people just stood up. Hundreds of people at Harry Jerome Arena stood up and gave him a standing O. And he stood there for maybe 10 minutes.
Wow.
10 minutes he
That's
stood
powerful,
there.
huh?
Everybody in the room, even though we were playing an opposing team,
The
they all,
respect- the
there was
respect.
respect there,
Oh, yeah.
deep respect.
Wow.
So when I saw that as a 12-year-old, 12 and a half year old, it's like, yeah, it's a watershed moment. I want to do that. I'm going to be that.
Yeah. Would you say that this game is a medicine game for you?
It is. Great medicine game. Got me through, boy, back then, unspoken grief.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started to be a young man that I started to work on myself. And the game definitely got me through those tough times.
Yes.
I mean, I would talk to my uncles, who were, some of them were coaches, including Stan. And the cultural teachings is you could ask them to be your father. And I approached 3 of them, and they all said yes. They knew the teaching. Your uncles become your replacement dads. And
Right.
even though I didn't see them day to day all the time, a couple of them, one I did, because he's my uncle, but he's like 5 years older than me. We grew up more like brothers.
Yes.
Yeah, so even though he's not a father figure, he's an important figure in my life from that generation above me. Incredible guy.
How old were you when when you became a goalie? How old do you think you were at that point, roughly?
Probably 12. So this is me probably 1968. That's me playing goal.
There you are.
And my brother's in here, right here, Patrick. He's a year older, so we would reconnect every other year, playing the same
that's
team in
nice.
the minor
That's
system. Yeah.
You were reluctant at first, but then you
Reluctant. I think my big release was being physical as a defenseman.
Yes.
It was part of my healing. I just lost my dad.
Yes. Yeah.
And the physical part of the game sure helped.
Yes.
A release, if you will.
Yeah.
Fairly, we're taught by coaches even then.
Yes.
Leave it on the floor. Once the game's over, the whistle goes, you shake hands, you move on.
Yes. Yeah.
But that physical part was certainly helpful as a
know.
tween, 12-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's a tough time of life right there.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Were you successful in lacrosse goal right from the beginning? Did
Yeah.
it seemed like you were in the right spot, I guess?
Right spot, right time.
Yeah.
Got lots of kudos from fellow players over time and guys I played against, even as a peewee when I started playing. Got a few team trophies, some league trophies. It's always nice to get those and that recognition and that support ultimately in the end,
Yeah.
just to carry on and be better, do better.
Now,
That was my personal philosophy. I could always do better.
Sure.
Always.
You could always stop one more shot.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I'm still a peewee in this one. This is after we amalgamated with North Shore Minor Lacrosse. And
Oh, okay.
this is the orange jersey with the green shoulders. And this is taken in Victoria. That's me with the golden ball. It was provincial championship, and during a delayed penalty, I ran up, stood in front of their crease. Our forward had shot and bounced off one of the defenders, and it came straight toward me. So I picked it up and turned and scored
With a goalie stick?
with a goalie stick. So it's a record that stood provincially for 25 years until Rick Mang broke it.
Oh.
25 years later in a provincial.
Wow.
And I later got to play with him. I saw him a lot in the U.S. Yeah, I still have that ball in my
Wow.
in my studio.
I've never seen that before. Yeah.
What's funny about they hung it from a huge ribbon.
Yeah.
I mean, the ribbon's gone now, but it hung in a conspicuous place. And one of my cousins who said, "That's a beautiful ball," and he let it go. Safe to say, I doubled over. It's like you.
When you picked up field lacrosse at a certain point, were you goalie as well in field lacrosse?
Yes.
Which is a different game
Yes.
altogether, you know?
I started that in high school, and my plan was to play football, but they brought in field lacrosse. And I had wrenched my knee playing field, took a year off, then went to play with Vancouver Field Lacrosse Club.
Okay.
Played with them for 25 years and got
They were the Barbarians? Was it?
Barbarians, got
Okay.
2 nationals out of that.
Yeah.
And this is the famed Barbarian jersey. Kudos to Mickey Maslow, Cam Brown, who were my coaches, managers back then. When I first started with Vancouver Barbarians, there were 70 of us on the team.
Wow.
So they eventually split up, and I think we had like Jordy Dean, Dave Durant. We were all on the same team for 1 year. Then the next year they split everybody up because there was just too many of us. Yeah. And also won 2 Tier 1s in Portland Field Lacrosse tournament. There was a Pacific Coast League that at its height had 46 teams from all over America.
Wow.
And some from Edmonton, Calgary. They combined to bring a field team down.
Right.
And West Coast was always represented with West Coast teams, including Vancouver.
Right.
But the challenge in that tournament went from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is you had to go the whole weekend undefeated.
Wow.
If you lost the first game, you went to Tier 2.
Okay.
But to beat teams like the Sea Spray, who have a lot of Hall of Famers on there
Yeah.
now, and my philosophy or coach's philosophy is that if you can pass and catch in this game, you could win.
Mm-hmm.
No 30-second clock in field.
Right.
So we had some elite players, but that was our philosophy. If they didn't get the ball and we held on to it, we knew we could win.
Well, it's true. It's ball control.
It's
They
control.
can't score if you've got the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I took my skills there into box. Being a quick release goalie, just get the ball out of the crease as fast as you can, transition
Yeah.
as fast as you can. You
Right.
see it every day now in elite play.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's get on offense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maximize your time on offense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud to say I was always top 5 or 4 in my team for assists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, points anyway.
Yeah, so you're like a quarterback.
Quarterback.
In many ways.
Yeah, and also took that. Like in field, I'm sure you know, you're always yelling out the position of the ball.
Yes.
I took that to box as well. Talk to defensemen. Always.
Talk is very useful because
It is
the other
useful.
team hears it too.
Yeah,
And it's like having an extra man
It
on
is.
the field or the floor. You know?
it is.
Yeah.
It gets them thinking twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if nobody does anything, it
Yeah.
still gets them
yeah.
thinking, right?
Yeah. You burn that second, that's all the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When's the last time you played competitively, like in either field or box? Like how long did you play? Yeah.
Honestly, I treat it as competitive, even though there's always mutual respect. 5 years ago, I had a stroke, and I was playing Tri-Cities, and they farm out through a draft system 150 plus players. So the theory is to create the teams equal. Hall of Famers, Senior A.
So this was a Masters league?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't know any of
No,
that. Okay.
so 2 days before I had the stroke, I was playing.
Wow.
Yeah, with Hall of Famers, retired Senior A players, guys I used to ride against in the 70s. We become friends,
Yeah.
we become grandparents and parents.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about the healing game part of
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
that's the magic.
Yes.
It takes 30, 40 years sometimes,
Yeah.
but when you have that mutual respect and camaraderie
Yeah.
as old men,
Yeah.
Really doesn't really matter what happened 40 years ago.
It doesn't. No.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
because we're here, playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just that. So you kept playing, and you had a stroke, and I wouldn't know that from speaking
Right.
with you. Like you've recovered well from it. It appears to me. I don't know. I don't know your circumstances.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Was there a moment where you were frightened or anything after the stroke with anything like anything that didn't work properly?
There was a moment when I sat on my bed. I was looking under my bed for my glasses, and sat down, and my world changed. I was struck by fear, but I knew enough to pray in my own way.
Yeah.
And I remembered a teaching from our elders as a boy going to our longhouse.
Yeah.
We're longhouse people, like our Six Nations family.
Oh, yeah, you're longhouse people here.
Yeah, it's going on right now.
Yeah.
And one of the elders on the floor said, if you ever go into deep trauma, sing. So from that moment, sitting on the bed, I started to sing over and over and over all the traditional songs I knew, which is probably a couple hours. And I would sing those over and over. Then when I got tired of doing that, I would sing rock and blues songs that I knew the lyrics to. A song to me is a song.
Yeah.
And it helped me, I believe, stay here. Because I came close, I think.
Really?
Yeah. And helped me rewire the brain. Music is an important part of my life. Yeah, it got me through that. Good therapist too, physiotherapist. Yeah.
Did you get medical help that day, or like what happened with did an ambulance come for you or anything like that, or
no. I walked to the living room where my blood pressure machine was.
Okay.
My wife was in another room, and it was high, not abnormally high. Told her what was going on, and within 2 minutes, she had me in the car going to emerge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
she
what I
got me
wondered.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was after you sang for a few hours on your own?
No, within minutes after the blood pressure test. So I was on the way to the hospital within 5 minutes after the stroke hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did when did you use song to rewire yourself, as you say?
Especially through that first month,
Oh, okay.
I had to learn to walk again.
Right.
Talking wasn't a problem. Bit of numbness, bit of vertigo.
Okay.
But the physiotherapist, anytime my eyes open, I would sing.
Okay.
From the time I went to sleep,
Wow.
would sing. I still do it today. I'm a musician, probably no surprise, but yeah, just find it helps keep those moments occupied and busy and
It's positive.
always positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Always positive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you stopped playing lacrosse, what, 5 years ago or so? Or
Yeah.
that's amazing you played that long,
Loved it.
Yeah.
Miss it. I got cleared to go back like 5 months ago. My doctor retired and I got a new doctor. Did the physical thing, the baseline thing, talked about lacrosse, and she said, "You don't play anymore?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, you can go back now." That made my day.
Wow.
I need to lose like maybe 20 pounds and I'll get back to it.
Now, if you're a goalie, you want to put on 20. Stuff those corners.
It was always the envy of other goalies, this little pot belly. Goalies like little pot bellies. I don't know why. Like, I want one of those, they would say to me. Like, yeah, cost a lot to get this.
That's right. That's right. Have you coached at all? The game? Have you?
Yeah, I have 4 boys and I coach them all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and my youngest, he was drafted to Nanaimo, Senior A, during COVID.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And then, yeah, that kind of shut everything down for that year.
Yeah.
But last year he played with the Grizzlies, the Arena Lacrosse League.
Oh.
Yeah, so he played with, elite division, NLL players, Senior A players, graduating Junior A players who missed that year.
Okay.
So they went to a draft system, and they're playing as we speak, I believe.
And that is What league is that that he's playing in? What's it called?
Arena Lacrosse League.
And is that, where does that, what does that encompass? Like, which, is it all British Columbia or all?
Guys who were born here want to move here or live here. So they're all NLL players, Senior A players who want to try out and play, and Junior A draftees.
But the teams are all in like this area?
They're all, they're
Oh,
all wearing native design jerseys.
Okay.
Yeah, he was Grizzlies, there was Golden Eagles, list goes on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They work out at a Langley Event Center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you, so you coach your sons, and you have 4 sons, and they all played, and how old are they now?
The oldest is 45, and the youngest is 22.
Oh, yeah.
And I still coach goalies. Like even at, my nephew Twani brought me on as a resident elder for the team.
Nice.
You see, I grew up from novice all the way to senior ball. There was always an elder in the room who was like the grounding force,
Right.
who was the humor force,
Right.
who was the inspiration force.
Yeah.
So he brought that
Perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So he brought me on, and every minute and a half, 2 minutes before game time, I would get up and share teachings, share inspiration from those old people, and just be an echo for them. The stuff I'd learned. Like there's nothing in this heart, mind, and spirit that I wouldn't share with any goaltender or team.
Right.
You know, it's about growing the game for me and keeping it alive and moving and loving it, whichever way I can.
Yeah. With the game, along with coaching, did you ever like manage a team or anything like that side of it, or?
Yeah, in the late 80s, the Baker family managed the team well up into the 80s. Then they were going to take a break. Then me and my wife managed for a couple of years.
Did you? Yeah.
The senior B team, North Shore
Okay.
Indians. Yeah.
And that's a challenge, you know, when you're dealing with players and their lives and trying to get everyone going in the right direction. And,
That's true.
That kind of thing, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I learned even then, just get the players, get a good coach, just let them have at it.
Yeah.
You know, other than the goaltending duties, which I still do, even minor players I still coach.
Yeah.
Goaltending. Yeah.
What's your biggest advice to a new goaltender?
Actually, I'm coaching Stan Joseph's great-grandson. And I told him after I interviewed his great-grandpa when I was 15, I did a paper that I handed in to my English teacher. And I did all the questions that I was asked to do, then some. The hour turned into 4 hours. Talked about his diet, talked about the spiritual side of the game for him. But in the end, I just started freestyling, like a play-by-play color commentator from a goaltender's perspective. I did 3 pages of that and handed it in. And to me, it's about what they commonly call now visualization. So that's what I incorporated. I tell my goalies, if you're going to commit to this game, become a student of the game, not only within, but you watch other goaltenders, you learn from them by watching, but practice your visualization. I always tell them there's saves I have in my head that I haven't done yet. And that's the magic of imagination. And it does work. It does work. If you place yourself in the place and time down the road, it's magic. It's pure magic. Yeah. So it's commonplace now. I showed 3 people that paper back then at a 15-year-old. 2 of them said I was crazy, and the other one said, that's nice. So I never showed anybody, but I took that tool and internalized it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot can be accomplished with positive thought versus negative thought. You know, you're going to get further along, without a doubt. You know,
Totally.
not everything will work out the way you think it will,
No.
but you'll still be moving forward one way or another, right? You know,
And I've had the best and worst of coaches in
Yes.
that perspective.
Yes, yeah.
But that's always my philosophy. You know, lean on the positive side. There's a discipline that can be picked up and taught.
You learn something from everybody.
You learn something from everybody and each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Some more valuable than other, but but something, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
This lacrosse stick is the second generation. It's certainly seen better days.
Yeah.
But what I did was, as a result of an injury to my back, I took a field mesh
Yeah.
and over a period of 2 weeks figured out how to incorporate it into a goalie stick. It's commonplace now,
Yeah.
but in late 80s it was rare. But I like to think I inspired what we see today, commonplace in Pro League and other, Senior A. But yeah, so I designed it. It took me 2 weeks to figure it out. One good thing about it is once you've said it, you just leave it.
What has this game meant to you?
It's, to me, I think we touched on the healing part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, coming from an Indigenous background, I have faith, belief, and trust. And without a doubt, there's always racism in the game.
Yep.
But when you have those three things that I've grown up with, and it's a tool in your kit. You can't own it. Am I human? Yeah, I'm human.
Yeah.
But was to help other people along the way, and sometimes in real time, on the floor, talking to players on the floor, that I'm crunching in the backboards. I would scream at them, just play the game.
Yeah.
Because they were better than us. A lot of them were, in this particular year, they were better than us. But they had a Philadelphia Flyers bully kind of mentality.
Right, right. They weren't playing the game the right way.
Across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, we beat them probably 80% of the time. But if they stuck to the game, they would have probably beat us. So I'm trying to tell them in real time, just play the game.
Right.
You're going to do fine.
There's a story the Haudenosaunee tell about the creator, the game's being played in the sky world.
Yeah.
And there's a warrior who is not playing correctly. And the creator talks to him one time. It says, "You're not playing correctly." And he talks to him again. "You're not playing correctly."
Yeah.
The guy does it again. He's playing too rough, no respect, and so the third time, the creator puts him into a hickory tree, like drives him right into it and lets him sit there for whatever amount of time.
Right.
And hickory is medicine. And the player sat there and reflected for however long it was. And then the creator came back, "Well, you think you're ready to play again?" And the player had learned the lesson of the medicine and and the hickory being so important with the sticks and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and coming back to the game and playing the right way,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a story they tell,
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's the
takes
power of the
time
game, right?
sometimes
It's the
and-
power of the game, right?
Yeah.
I've seen kids along the way that are on the wrong path because something happened in their family or whatever. And it's amazing what sport in general, but lacrosse specifically, can do to give direction and team. It's a team sport. It's the only medicine game in the world that is team oriented. There's Zen things like martial arts and archery and that are individual kind of connection, but I don't know of any other than lacrosse as a team game that's a medicine game,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it's the game.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
true.
I wonder, do you think long stick came to the West Coast? I know, like, from the pure modern game, we'll call, that, was created in like 1867 with the rules by Dr. George Beers. The Salmon Bellies picked up the game probably, certainly early 1880s, if not late 1870s. Like it became a force across this nation to as the national game without being officially the national game. You feel long stick was with the Squamish, like before then and longer than, like, I'm just trying to.
I believe so, not only here, but I have an elder from the interior,
Okay.
and they still play today with long sticks.
Yeah.
And it's just a straight stick. And the,
Straight stick.
the
Yeah.
objective-
With no net on it, no.
No net on it, but the objective is to get a disc that's hollow in the middle onto a plate,
Okay.
a couple 100 yards apart, and there's hundreds of people playing.
Yeah.
And once you've hit that plate and get it on there, the game's over. But yeah, I mean, there's always injuries, respect for sure. And I think here, having heard from that great granny, like a stick was a part of the game as well,
Stick ball games
Yeah.
are ancient.
Yeah.
It's just natural, I think.
Yeah.
There's an object, there's an extension,
Yeah.
to your hand, and something you want to do with it to measure,
Yeah.
measure what you do, right? It seems like it's, I've gone with Alfie Jacks, the great Haudenosaunee stick maker, and we've traveled to Oklahoma together to see stickball or two-stick Capucciatoli. I don't know if you're familiar with that game.
Rings a bell. Yeah.
They single post goals, 30 on a side, on a football field. The sticks, they have two sticks, ball about the size of a golf ball, but leather, woven, and they trap it between the two sticks. And the rules are very much like rugby, where you can tackle the person with the ball. It's 12 officials on the field. They don't call anything.
Sounds like Hawaii.
Their job is to throw the ball in. Their job is to throw the ball in, and keep the play going.
Yeah.
If you score a goal, which 25 yards on the run, they can pick off the post, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite amazing. Like Alfie and I had always dreamt of going down there,
Yeah.
and it was just such an adventure, to see.
Wow.
It's the Choctaw Nation.
Yeah.
That we
Sounds
saw play.
amazing.
It really is. It's they that's their game. And they do play for the entertainment of the creator. But it's a different form of the game. And then Anishinaabe play with Great Lake sticks with the small heads with the just simple pocket in it. And,
Right.
They play that again a stick, but it's a little different than the back
Yeah.
east Mi'kmaq and
Yeah.
all the other nations that played long stick,
Yeah.
back in the day. So it's very interesting to see, but it's a stick and a ball nonetheless, that
Yeah.
it's played that way. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
My understanding, it's been played from the Arctic Circle all the way down to Mexico and found in archaeological sites, these type of sticks and balls and, yeah.
The Irish, their game of hurling goes back 3,000 years. So this is a natural
I believe so.
thing. It
Yeah.
really is. It's always been something. That people like to play and test themselves and
Yeah.
learn it. For the future of this game, what you've played it for a long time and you've coached and you've managed and what do you think needs to happen for continued health of the game in the long run and that kind of thing?
On a number of different fronts, actually, it's happening now, but it needs to get bigger. On the broader spectrum, I think the corporations needs to pick it up. There is no reason that this could be as big as any other ball game that's played in media now.
Yep.
And it's we all know them all. We see it every Sunday. We see it in our arenas with National Lacrosse League. But I think if it got bigger, to kind of get through that, whatever that stigma it is, and I have my own ideas what that is, to broaden that spectrum. But because when you look at pro balls with the used balls, whether it's hockey or football or basketball, they're all scheduled throughout the year.
Yeah.
Lacrosse needs to find their niche in there and either replace it and take its natural place, that's going to take time. But I think the part I'm really proud of being part of is the healing with the Indigenous people. There's 94 points to the Truth and Reconciliation document. And I met with the president of BCLA about a year and a half ago. And they adopted 5 of the relevant points for the BCLA. And they sent it off to CLA and they adopted it. And that's the result of my nephew asking me to Tawani to meet with him and talk about truth and reconciliation and what it means. So I think once that gets hold and practiced more and more, and I've seen it even this last year at the Minto Cup, non-acknowledgements were done there. It's going to help. It's a healing game. It's going to help this country and this world be in a better place. So I think the more we do that, wherever you're playing, look to the local nation, look to the local elder. Mm-hmm. They're everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, and you'll find them, and they'll help.
This game has always brought different nations, different cultures together.
Yes.
It always has, and that's its purpose, because that's part of the medicine, right? Anything else you want to say about any aspect of it, or people you played against that were great players, or anything you want to acknowledge? Wow. Yeah, you got the.
I want to acknowledge. It was probably the second time off the res, ever, as a 15-year-old. I went to Victoria, and you'll see the picture later, when I was like 12 as a peewee. My parents had to get a permit to leave the village with the Indian agent. And that kind of inherited some of that. We were told not to leave our village unless we were with somebody.
That was that recent, huh?
That recent, not that long ago.
Yeah.
So to have played against Gaylord Powless, Ross Powless.
Yeah.
And it was the last big all-native tournament here in Nanaimo. To play against him was like, to me, a high honor and something that I'll carry with me a long time. Because his dad, my grandpa, coached Andy Paull. He brought him to the West Coast.
I've heard Andy Paull's name before.
Yeah, that's my mother's father.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, wow.
So to have that tournament,
yeah.
And what's interesting about that tournament is one of the chiefs in Nanaimo, there's a few of them there, held a big barbecue for all the teams. And there was 3 from here, BC, and 3 from 6 Nations, including the Powless brothers and Dad. Well, there's always rivalry. And it carried over into the barbecue. You could sense the tension.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the chief who was hosting told his daughter to turn the music off and said, hey, look, you're in my territory now. While you're here, you're going to get along. The game is on the floor, not here. You're going to have all the food you want, all the good drinks you want. By the end of the night, all those teams that were having that tension, including some of us, we were all arm in arm by the end of the night.
Isn't that wonderful? But that's what it...
Yeah.
I always appreciated rugby because after the game, they get together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they leave what happened on the pitch behind and enjoy each other's company afterwards. And I saw that happen when I came back to Canada in '81. I started the Toronto Lacrosse Club, the men's field team.
Yeah.
And that league, I guess the box players never used to get together after their games. Like, the Peterborough guys wouldn't talk to the Oshawa guys, wouldn't talk to the Brampton guys. But the feeling, because it was social, everybody would go back to the sponsors, the pub or whatever that sponsored that particular club,
Right.
and just get together and enjoy each other's company, after, and that's the way.
Yeah.
And I through playing international lacrosse, that's what we learned from the English and the Australians.
Aussies are amazing. That's a personal highlight in my career is playing the Aussies in box.
Yep. When did you do that?
81, 82, somewhere in there.
They were over in '80, right?
I
For
think
the world,
so.
the world.
Worlds.
Yeah. Was it during that trip or another
That trip.
Oh, yeah.
We played against them in Harry Jerome. They never wore pads, probably
Yeah, they
still
didn't.
don't. But they told us before the game to hit them, which we did. And after the first period, we were up like 8 goals, 9 goals.
Yeah.
And the coach came in and said, the players don't want you to stop. They want to learn something. Teach them. If you're going to run the score up, do it.
Yeah.
It was like 32 to
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, they all gathered in the middle of the floor,
Yeah.
put their helmets and gloves down, faced the crowd, and clapped. And they got a standing ovation.
Yeah.
You talk about sportsmen, man.
Yeah,
They just
yeah.
got spanked, but they didn't care.
Well,
They wanted to learn.
I played a year over there in Melbourne,
Yeah,
and that was it. After the game,
yeah,
the teams got together.
yeah.
You know, and that, you know, it was a rough game, you know, but
Yeah.
after the game, like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
nice shot, you know, I got you that time, like that, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, right? So,
Yeah. Last thing I want to share,
yes,
if I may.
yes, yeah,
It's a bit of a story.
yep,
33 years ago, we had a lacrosse banquet on the North Shore. We were bridesmaids that year in BC. My family had planned a burning the next day where we send, through ceremony, our ancestors food, clothing, for their journey. My job and my friend's job, my uncle actually, was to gather the cedar. Chop it all up
cedar.
in.
Okay.
And we chop it up and create a table where we put the food on. And the medicine man and woman open that spiritual door to send the food over. And it's like we believe, a visit. And these medicine men and women have the ability to talk to our ancestors.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, the ceremony goes, and partway through the fire burning on the table, the medicine man comes to me and my uncle and does this, come here. And I thought, oh no, this can't be good. We're standing in front of the fire. I went deaf. Couldn't hear a thing. We're in an industrial area. Certainly there's sound of the crackling of the fire before I went deaf. I knew enough after being struck by fear to pray in my own way. And I swear to God, what I heard in my heart, mind, and body was thank you. Next time, do your homework. Always be prepared. And thank you. Then it must have been about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, I'm deaf. But towards the end, it was like somebody was taking the world's volume and turning it up and down and up and down. Then I could hear. Then the medicine man, like a dream, he's like this far in front of my face, like a foot, and he nods, and I know I'm done. And we're taught you never turn your back on your ancestors, you always back away. So I back away to where I was standing, and so does my friend, my uncle. He shares the interpretation from the ancestors. None of it included me and my friend. Invites us all, my huge family, to go to have lunch in the community hall. On the walk there, I tug him on his elbow and I say, hey, what was that about? And he turns around and he starts laughing at me. He goes, oh, you, they had a message for you. They told me next time, be prepared. Always do your homework. And they were doing this to you, which is our symbol of gratitude.
right.
They were saying thank you for what you've done gathering the wood. And that's what I heard moments before, standing in front of the fire.
Huh?
It was something. So I found somebody's truck and I just went and laid on the wheel well and just bawled for like a half hour.
Wow.
And I was done.
That's powerful.
I was done with drinking and drugging, whatever I was doing back then, mostly drinking.
Yeah.
Months go by and my uncle's office is right next to mine. We have some lull in our time and we start talking about the burning.
Yeah.
And I tell him that story I just told you, and he starts to cry too. He said, I went deaf that moment too. I never heard a thing. You heard something, but I quit drinking that day too. I was in therapy back then. I was doing a lot of support work in community. I told my therapist about a year after this, and she said, what you've done is near impossible. It takes the alcoholic maybe 5, 6 times to go to therapy to do what you've done. I said, well, I had better help,
Yeah.
bigger help. She goes, you're right. So from that point on, from that burning on, I just found every wellness program that I could find and stuck to it, including lacrosse. Yeah, still helped me back then.
Wonderful. Are you considered a faith keeper?
Yeah, I do that work, knowledge keeper,
Knowledge
elder.
keeper, yeah, elder.
I
yeah.
do that work for Vancouver Coastal Health, an Indigenous acting company called Full Circle Productions. Burnaby Association for Community Inclusion. They work with people with disabilities, indigenizing and strategic planning here and there. We just finished a 5-year strat plan for their staff and their patrons. Yeah. So all that kind of work helps. Sitting with those great grannies and being at ceremony sure helps.
Yeah.
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 Dennis, thank you for coming today. I'll use Nyahweh and Miigwech.
OCM. Yeah.
What's that?
OCM.
OCM.
Yeah, my friend.
OCM.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah. Oicho means thank you.
Oicho.
Oicho. Yeah.